रिश्तों से आज मैं टकरा गया हमने दिया थोड़ा स्टाइल मार नखरे मार है कर पहुंच कर शॉपिंग अच्छा
So I was born in Punjab in northern India. So my dad worked in a bank, so we were like kind of a lower middle class kind of family, where my mum didn't work out. She was a homemaker or a housewife, you can call her, and that was the case with the most of the families around. So I grew up in a family of five, so it was a younger brother and older sister. I was not always here, so I was born in India and I grew up there in northern India with my siblings, and then I got married when I was 20 years old, and after I got married, that was the first time I came to England with my husband.
How did it feel initially coming to the UK?
Um, it was very, very difficult. It was, although I was kind of excited and I was looking forward to it, but because I was very close to my sister and my mother, so I think it was very difficult for me to be so far away from them, and so you know yeah, it was quite I was quite unhappy for being away from them at times, but then there were new things to kind of occupy my life with, and I got busy with my new home and my new family, and learning the new ways of living, exploring the city, and there were difficulties in the new relationships. I didn't get on very well with my mother-in-law. She was not very happy with me for a long time, so she expected different things from me, which I probably was not was not the ideal daughter-in-law for her. Yeah, but I had a very close friendship with my husband, so I did share everything with him, and he was very supportive.
Things did you feel were different for you than a boy's upbringing?
When I was growing up in India, there was like a clear difference between boys and girls. There were lots of things that they were very good with because I was born in a very well educated family, and they valued education, and they were quite progressive, and they were quite forward thinking family. But still in the society around, it was very different how boys and girls uh, were um, were allowed and not allowed to do certain things, and it was not and it was not seen, and it was actually was not safe for the girls to be like on their own, after twilight hours. Sometimes you would find, if you're going to public places, you will easily, people would try to, what do you call it? They will try to touch you in the crowd inappropriately, or they will try to give you, pass some remarks or taunts, or would wink at you, whistle at you. So women, and especially younger girls, were particularly targeted.
Particular incident that ever happened?
Yeah, well, a few times it happened. We were taking the train to another city, and like in the holidays, we were traveling. So there was always a big crowd when the train came, and then it was like big crowd trying to get on the train, and there would always be some young men, clearly not very well educated and not from very good families, who would just try to get in the crowd and would try to, touch you from behind or from front.
Leela takes a local train from the small town of Panwal to her office in New Delhi every day. She used to travel in one of these. But they're so crowded, it's hard to even get on, she says. There are other problems too. Men stare and pass lewd comments.
They also touch us. Sometimes.
In response to growing complaints about eve teasing, the government decided to remove men from some trains. Last year, it introduced 8 commuter trains for women only in 4 of India's largest cities. Last week, it announced plans to add 6 more.
So it happened to me, a couple of times, which I can never forget. So, but you try to protect yourself as much as possible, push, but still it was, you were too afraid to make a big fuss about it. You would accept it as like, this is the way society is, this is acceptable, and you just need to kind of, brush it off and move on with your life.
Women from a South Asian background in this country are different in whatever way from white British women. In the way they live, what they...
These days, current generation.
You can talk about your generation. You can talk about now.
Yeah, we are very different. There's, I think there is that sense of family and sense of putting our family and relationships first. I think it's more kind of ingrained in Asian women, and I think they themselves put themselves under so much more pressure, and they expect a lot more from themselves. So they want to they want to do everything. They want to kind of have a life in a Western style, where they give all the independence and all the opportunities to their family, to their children, and at the same time they want to keep their culture and traditions and religion alive. So I think they're trying to just juggle too many things at the same time.
Wait, who are you talking about?
Asian women.
Now or before?
Now and even before.
Yeah.
But now more so, as because I think we are in the generation which is like, we are in the middle of the changing times. So my mother's generation, they only knew about, they were only focused about their culture, their traditions, and they were very. But now with the changing times and developing science, so we are kind of on the sort of middle grounds of. So do we do this or do we do that? Do we just kind of forget about our rituals and traditions and whatever we did? Do we just label them as nonsensical and and even if you're thinking about decision to marry someone, I was asked, and I was like given this choice of like meeting the person and getting to know him a little bit before I could, but there was always like although it was like it was a choice that was given, that I could put my foot down and I could say no, but there at the back of it the expectation was that I would go ahead with what family has decided for me. So yeah, so the choice was never 100% I had, and now the I think still the choice is never with a woman 100%, because it is influenced by many factors. So it probably is not directed by the man in the house, but it can be directed by the circumstances.
If you had complete free will, let's say in a kind of idealistic sort of world, how would you live your life from, like, let's say from your mid-teens perhaps to now? How would you live your life? What would you have done?
I would have done a lot of things differently, to be honest. I would have focused on myself more, and I would have lived independently. I wouldn't have lived in a joint family, and I would have made sure that I was independent sooner. I would have studied, thinking about, can this education help me, support me financially in the future? So I would have studied. That would have made me financially more independent and secure, and I would have lived away from my joint family with my husband.
Are the pros and cons of being an Asian woman in the West?
Right, pros are that, like, you definitely have, you have that experience of two different cultures, you have two different societies, you have whatever you bring with you, the languages, the traditions, the art and the culture from your country. So those are your kind of, that's your foundation, those are your roots. So that's, and you are bringing that to a new country. That means you have something new to share. You have new languages, you have new traditions, you have new religion, and the world is now interested in new things. They want to try new cuisine, they want to wear new different clothes, they want to learn new languages. The cons are like, you're limited in ways. You are still is seen as like an Asian woman, so you are expected to behave like one, and your family values, you're expected to uh, behave in certain ways. Yeah, you're still expected to kind of carry on with you, as I said in the previous answer, that you're expected to do this as well as that. You expected to. We were just in India. People were celebrating Diwali as the main, but now we want to celebrate Christmas as well as Diwali, as well as Easter, and and if there are whatever is going on in this country and in this culture, we want to go ahead with that. We want to be part of that, but then we also have our own traditions and culture and everything else that we don't want to let go of. So so it can sometimes be difficult to balance, like how the society is different, how in a lot of Asian homes men are not used to of working in the home, in the kitchen, so women are expected to do everything. So I belong to a family where men are not used to of washing and cleaning and cooking, so women are expected to run the household almost 90% by themselves, and then when we are working outside the house, then we have a job which is very demanding, so we want to progress with our career, work outside the house, earn money, and then we are coming back home, and then we have to run the whole household ourselves too. So it's I think it's just, it gets a bit too much sometimes.